If you're interested in having a natural childbirth, today we're going to be covering interventions and interruptions to help you succeed in getting that natural delivery. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sherry Hopkins. I'm a home birth midwife in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm joined by Cora. She is my daughter, and she is also a home birth midwife at Momma, as well as one of our massage therapists and placenta encapsulators.
All the things.
We do lots of things. If you find this video helpful, like, subscribe, hit the bell. We get a lot of clients that ask us, how do I have a successful natural childbirth? Because we get a lot of clients that come in that aren't necessarily having home birth, but maybe they're here meeting with their doulas and having hospital delivery. And so we want to talk a little bit about how to avoid interventions and interruptions in your birth. Yeah. Years ago, when I got my doula training, this is how long ago that was. When I got my doula training, Debbie Young from Birth Matters taught my class. One of the most amazing videos she showed me was a German woman who was laboring at home, and she kept getting into the squat at home, and she was laboring and she was doing well and she was coping well, and she was and then you watched her get to the hospital, and she really was struggling. She was really struggling with her labor, and it took a while for her to find something that worked, and she started squatting in her bed. And then she got on top of her contractions. But it cost her a solid an hour, right, for her to kind of find this space. And so I really love kind of that kind of journey into what natural childbirth looks like, and how can we as home birth midwives keep your birth happening the way that it's supposed to. My very favorite quote is by Michel Odent, and I will link his information below. He is well-known in the birth world on fighting for families' rights to choose and how they can have that success and that empowerment feeling. And the quote he has is that the very first intervention you have is leaving your home. And I frequently think of an animal having birth and giving birth. And we'll go with a fox. I always go with the fox because foxes are super cute.
They are pretty adorable.
So like if I'm comparing you to a fox, you can't be offended.
No, as long as you don't compare me to an elephant, we're good.
Now I know.
I know.
Although there are some really great videos of elephants giving birth online.
That's true. I have seen some.
I think we should link that below.
All the animal births.
All the animal births. You can just watch an hour of animal birth deliveries. And I like it because nobody's giving Pitocin to a cat or inducing a dog. Like it just happens organically, and being in an environment that you're most comfortable in.
Yeah.
I think of that mother fox, and when she goes into labor, she goes into her den and she's laboring and doing good, and she's got things happening, and then along comes a predator and labor stops, and she doesn't start again until, she feels safe. And I think feeling safe is a really big thing. And so it's why Well-Run Momma wanted to be able to cater to people having their babies at home or the hospital, because some women don't feel safe at home. And so I don't want you to have your baby at home if you don't feel safe there. And if you don't feel safe in a hospital, I don't want you having birth in a hospital. You should be having your baby somewhere else. And so I think feeling comfortable and safe, it plays such a big role.
For sure. I think that we're all mammals, and we have that fight or flight instinct, regardless of where we are. Just getting comfortable, even just removing somebody from their bedroom.
Absolutely. Our hypnobirthing class talks a lot about the fight or flight response and gives you a lot of tools to fight that fight or flight. Fight the fight or flight response. And that's really what you're looking for, is you're looking for support, education, and information so that you can feel safe and comfortable wherever you choose to give birth. I've always said and believed that your location of birth is one of your number one decisions that you make, right? To have a natural childbirth. The second one being your care provider. Yep. Once you have a location of birth and a care provider, your birth should usually move in the direction that you want it to be. What do you do to keep your birth intervention free?
I've done a lot of births as a doula. I think the number one thing is we always constantly have to talk about not being induced, because doctors kind of like, oh, your due date's here, let's get you induced. And I always think it's not an expiration date. You don't expire once you've hit your due date. In fact, you can go to 40 to 42, and first-time moms typically go about 10 days late. So I think that it's so important to let moms go into labor on their own, and then that really gives you the best chance of having a successful
because it becomes
birth.
A snowball.
Yes, it does, for sure. That cascade of medical
And I've talked about this
intervention.
in videos before, that the
Yeah.
baby chooses the birthday.
For sure.
So we can torture mom as much as we want. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's time for baby to be here.
No, and as a doula, even when my doula clients do get induced, they tend to be the longest births because their bodies just aren't ready, and we're trying to get that started for them, and so it does typically tend to be a while.
So allowing baby birth to happen on its own.
Yeah.
Choosing a location that you're most comfortable with. Finding a care provider that supports you in your choices. I would say for me, one of the number one things is who you've invited to your birth. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to make other people happy. And so we maybe make decisions and choices. So like maybe your mother-in-law really feels like she wants to come to your birth, but she causes you anxiety. And so I think birth was that baby got in that belly in a very intimate way. And I think baby needs to come out in a very intimate way. But I've had women have full on, like, they had like a party.
There are like 10, 15 people there.
Yeah.
They're okay with that.
For the most part, I think keeping birth intimate so that you do feel safe and that your birth team supports your choices, I think is really important.
Yeah. And I even think that if I've had clients that choose to have more people there, and they tend to want to be like in their bathroom or in their bedroom. So like even though they thought they might want to have these people here, then they go into labor and they've kind of decided that that's actually not what they wanted, and they kind of go with that more secluded place. So I always talk to my clients about beforehand having conversations so that they know if they're going or not, so they have that expectation. And then it's okay to ask somebody to leave if you're in labor and you need to be by yourself. That's okay to ask them to step out or find a place that does work for you.
One of my favorite birth stories was a woman who had an HBAC, so a home birth after a cesarean with me several years ago. And she was complete for like a really long time, not getting the urge to push. And she had a doula and her husband was there, and things were going okay, but she just really wasn't getting an urge to push. We even pushed with her a couple times and not like enough progress to say like, we're going to see a baby soon. We left her alone. She went into her bathroom and she got into her shower. Like, I don't even think the shower was running, closed the thing. And me and her husband just kind of sat quietly outside the door to the bathroom, and she birthed her baby in the bathtub. And we were just there. Like, at some point she said, "Sherry, I feel the baby's head. Sherry," and I peeked and said, "You're doing great." She just needed that space, right? Like, I think we've got to, as care providers, we do have to start respecting the woman and the intimate relationship she has with her own body in order for her to have her best birth outcome. I can tell as a birth professional, like if I have a woman in a tub and say I'm rubbing her back, she either moves towards me or she moves away from me. And I know what to do. Whereas I think a mother-in-law or sister or somebody else in that dynamic would keep doing what they need to do, because it's really hard to sit on your hands.
Yeah.
When you see someone in labor, it is really, really hard to not feel like you need to do something.
Especially like being on the therapist, I'm always like, oh, I just want to go up there and like rub you. And then I'm always like, oh, not everybody wants that in labor. And so you have to just kind of respect what they're wanting.
And to have that conversation ahead of time for them to follow your cues and not feel like that it's okay for them to sit there and be present. And one of the grandmother midwives here, who actually is no longer with us, I was privileged to know her for a while, and she spent a lot of time talking to me about being present and what being present looked like. And that was just sometimes sitting in the corner and putting your phone down and just being present in that moment and sending that energy to that mom. And that's hard, I think, sometimes when doulas go into the hospital, right? Because you're getting paid to do a job, and that job is rubbing and massaging and doing all the things. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is just like being present, being that kind of care provider. And sometimes we do too much. Sometimes we are that interruption. We are that person who's interrupting what's happening. One of our own birth professionals had her baby last weekend, this weekend. And, there were times where it was so quiet, and her room was so small, so that she had two of us as her midwife, and we would take turns going and sitting in the room. And there were times where I sometimes would hear talking happening, and I'd be like, "Ooh, like, let's keep this really quiet because this seems to be her preference right now." And so, yeah, and it was one of my favorite births to date, because her little 2-year-old came out and came and snuggled me on the couch. And I kept thinking in my mind, like, this kid's gonna freak out when he realizes it's me and not like someone else. But I snuggled with him probably an hour and a half. And that was my job as a care provider, was just to hold this cute little 2-year-old that was getting ready to be displaced and no longer be the baby in the family. And that was my role. But I still was my role kind of to oversee this beautiful labor that was happening. But my role didn't have to need to be, it's not my spotlight, it's her spotlight, or that laboring person's spotlight. And we have to remember that. We have to remember that they're the ones who are kind of changing the dynamic in the room and looking for that support. And so I think that goes back to choosing your care provider. But I think we've given 4 great tools for how you can avoid interventions, and that is allowing things to happen organically, choosing a support team that is going to be supportive, and that means supportive in any way that looks like, as well as choosing your location of birth and a care provider that supports you as well as your team. And so thanks for joining us. Hopefully you found that helpful, and that you will subscribe, ring the bell, share comments below, share what helped you. If you had a natural vaginal delivery, share what helped you the most, so that when other women get on here or other birthing persons get on here, that they're able to see what things work for you. These are just our top 4. This doesn't mean this is a end all be all. It is just what we have seen with our experience and our knowledge. But there's lots of other things that have brought women to have a successful natural birth. And natural birth meaning whatever that definition. I've certainly individuals who've had epidurals and consider that a natural birth, but whatever your definition of natural is, whatever helped you get through your birthing, whatever helped you meet your baby, whatever helped you feel better supported, empowered, and educated, share that down below. We would love to hear from you.